Well, welcome back, everybody. And today we're going to be looking at innovation from the perspective of social innovation and disruptive innovation. Last week you saw the video of disruptive innovation as it applies to transportation and fuel, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail in that. So let's go ahead and start with innovation, specifically social and disruptive innovation. Today we're going to look at managing innovation and change by looking at disruptive innovation and also social innovation. Now, last week you saw a video that talked about disruptive innovation in as much as the automobile industry, fuel, and so forth. So today I want to explain a little bit more in detail what disruptive innovation is, and also what social innovation is all about. Now, the rise of the social innovation movement, and as you see here, social innovations seek to provide socially useful solutions to ongoing problems. For instance, as you saw in the video at the very beginning, when you take a look at that city street, all you saw were horses and maybe one vehicle. Well, Henry Ford decided that society needed to advance in transportation. So he created the automobile. Now, what was so revolutionary about it is that it not only changed the way that we got from one place to the other, it also changed the nature of how we get around. We no longer needed animals. We could get back and forth quicker and more efficiently with automobiles, and that was a social innovation. And these social entrepreneurs, now don't get me wrong, Henry Ford was in it for the money. He was an entrepreneur, but what he did was really help society more as a byproduct than as a focus. Now, social entrepreneurs, they look to make change in society. For instance, today you see in the automobile industry Elon Musk, who is creating the battery-powered car or perfecting it. They've been around a little while, but Elon Musk is working on ways to make these types of cars available to the ordinary consumer. So that would be a social innovation. And there are other things too. Right now, Coca-Cola, they're creating ways of being able to better improve the water quality of third world countries. So these efforts would be examples of social innovations and social entrepreneurs. Now, social business pays no dividends, sells profits at prices that make it self-sustaining. They're not there to make a profit or to make a killing. They're there just to maintain the ability to keep a business and benefit society. So this is what social innovation is all about. Now, Christensen said there are 3 technology-driven innovation roads. And here's what you see: improving existing products for high-margin customers. For instance, the iPhone. You see improvements there, and it benefits society, I guess you could say. So that would be a technology-driven innovation. Introduce cheap and alternative products to customers at the low end of the market, especially if they feel that they are paying more than they need. So what you might see with technology, instead of the high-dollar iPads, today you're seeing the smaller little notebooks that are not as expensive. They don't have all the bells and whistles, but they do what the customer needs, and then they are able to sell those. Create a new market for non-consumers who are not currently in the market at all. So that's what Bill Gates did. That's what Steve Jobs did. They created something out of nothing. Whether it's computers, whether it's an iPhone, they created a demand. So innovation doesn't have to be an improvement upon something. You can create something new and make demand occur for you. Now, disrupt or sustain. Disruptions are often ignored or disparaged. Products seem to be inferior, clumsy, or poor quality with limited functionality. And they give you the example here with Sony's transistor radio. It was portable, but it had a poorer sound than what people were used to. Back before the transistor radio, you had the big living room radios, and that's what people mainly listened to. But Sony was able to minimize the size, make it smaller and transportable. But again, the quality was not as good as what they were used to. And then innovators' dilemma, often financially unattractive, so opt for strategies that sustain innovations that support existing business model and reaffirm dominant market position. For instance, Elon Musk right now is funding most of his efforts to get the electrical car out into production, making it cheaper and so forth. And he will start turning a profit. But new ventures are unattractive because they do require a lot of money and research and development, and you never know if that product is going to be successful or not. So you want to sustain yourself by doing strategies that are going to support the business while you try to get the new product going, getting off the launch pad. Now, disruptive innovations, they're just breaks in what has been and what's going on. You can have technology breaks, new market breaks, regulatory changes, unforeseen world events, war and political change. For instance, when it comes to unforeseen world events during 9/11, airports were required to create a system or process where the likelihood of terrorism would not occur at that airport. So they had to create a new security system that was resistant to terrorist attacks. They had 6 months, and for every day past the 6-month deadline, they had to pay a fine of $10,000. So you see here them having to create something that they had never had to create before, and as a result of that, we have a better, hopefully more robust security system. So sometimes change, disruptive change and innovation can come, but it's going to come because of events that have forced you to change. I often wonder, and you've probably heard the old saying, I wonder what the buggy whip maker thought when he saw the first Model T coming down the line. I mean, did he see the writing on the wall? Many people don't, and as such, they perish. But for those who see change coming, whether it's through technology or markets or change or what you see here, world events, those who are astute, those who are watching and alert will see these changes and be able to adapt to them. Now, one of the examples that they give you is the refrigeration systems developed in the 1870s. That destroyed ice harvesting and that industry, and you probably never heard that there was an ice harvesting industry. Well, there were. Here's an example of it. This is the ice industry and refrigeration. Refrigerations or ice industry was the way to go. And if you see here in this little picture, people would, of course, harvest the ice and cut it in blocks, and a delivery man would bring it around to all the houses. That was I imagine, a slow and complex process of being able to get all that ice out to the people. I wonder what they did in the summertime when it was very hot and they had to haul that ice around. I'm sure they packed it with something and kept it cold. But notice here in the middle, when refrigeration came along, refrigeration overnight destroyed the ice harvesting industry. There was no need anymore for ice. You could do that with refrigeration. That's what we call a disruptive innovation. And it's also a social innovation, because look at how the refrigeration industry has really changed the world. There's not a place that I know of that does not have a refrigeration of some sort. Even third world countries, there are houses and there are places where people have refrigerators. They may be different in design and so forth, but they still have them. So the technology has really changed, disrupted the status quo, and has improved society and the way that we store meat and food and so forth. So that would be an example of an innovation that has been disruptive. Bauer and Christensen said the development of products that do not seek to emulate, replicate, or outperform existing products that dominate particular sectors, but focus on creating new markets with products that often perform less well but are affordable, simple, and more convenient. These products attract new types of customers at the lower end of the market and ultimately disrupt the long-term trajectory and dominance of market leaders. This is what disruptive innovation is. So Bauer and Christensen was quoting Dawson and Andreopoulos in what really we seek today to create as we bring new products to the market, as we think of new ways to improve society and so forth. We're not trying to duplicate or emulate. What we're trying to do is be revolutionary, giving people brand new things that will change the way that they think. I mean, it wasn't too awfully long ago when computers were introduced, and look at what computers did. If you remember in the video when AT&T was asking this consulting firm how many people would use a cell phone, and the answer came back maybe 900,000. Man, can you think about and imagine how far off the mark this marketing firm was, and how much money AT&T lost by listening to these people because they let another company come in and offer this type of technology. And by the time AT&T got to the point where they realized, hey, we goofed, look at how much money the competitor had and the competition had over them. And in today's world, you really can't afford to be a second place competitor. You can't afford to lag around. When opportunities present themselves, you need to seriously consider it, and sometimes you just have to take a chance. And if it pays off, you reap amazing benefits from it. And you also run the risk of losing much by it. So there goes that amount of risk for the creative and the innovative to go out and offer brand new products. But what I want you to do in the forum today is to think of something that has disrupted the status quo. What type of disruptive innovation can you think of? How has it changed, and how much of an impact does it have, maybe not just on the consumer, but on you if you use that type of thing? Well, that's all we have for today. Have a good day, and we will see you next week. We saw today how innovation can not only change an industry, but it can also benefit and change society. From refrigeration to technology, disruptive innovation is a fundamental change. in the way that we do things and the way that we approach things. So have a good week, and we will see you next week. And as I said earlier, let's go into the forum today and see what you can think of as far as a disruptive innovation and how it's changed society.